Here we go. Let's go get them. Unless they're outside. Do you think they're outside? Hey, what's up, guys?
But now I got the new ones. Man, it's gonna be a crazy time.
One love, that's the love.
Oh, guess what? This is the new brand at Gusto. Hey, I'm Will. I'm the head of the account community, and I empower you there. That's right. Love this place. We're here all about people. Check this out. This is the swag bag that we're going to give out. Oh, don't you be looking. No, we have picked one partner in the Denver area to do a little swag surprise sneak attack, huh? You like that? I love it. We heard they're actually having drinks on a Friday afternoon, and we're going to drop in on them, surprise them with a little bit of swag, and see what they have to say about Gusto's new brand. All right, let's go check it out. Let's go. All right, so I'm here with Aaron Seelman. That's right, he's an AE at Gusto. Aaron, I mean, how long have you been at Gusto?
Been at Gusto a little over 2 years now.
2 years. Loving it so far?
Been loving it. The best company I've ever worked for.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, talk about the people platform. They really put people first, and they take care of their employees. And that goes a long way to helping us take care of and empower our partners and our clients.
Now, obviously you work with partners specifically. I think they're going to be surprised with the swag bag.
I think they're going to be super stoked.
So, all right, we're here at the Sheraton. This is where Dennis's team at DJJ CPA. So we'll see how close we can get. Here we go. Ready? Oh! What's going on? How you doing? Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? What's up? Yeah, good to see you. How you doing? Hey, thanks so much. Got him. I'm not sure if it's all settled in yet, but okay, here we go. Let's see it. All right, ready? Hold on. Should we mix it up a little bit? Yeah. Nothing too fancy. Some Gusto pop sockets. Woo! Everybody gets a pop socket. Yeah, it's good. You got to look very traditional as an accountant, right? So the socks don't just stop with the big G, but it's also you got to throw in. I need some. Dennis, you don't get anything. Sorry, your whole team took it.
I'm wearing the old ones, but now I got the new ones. Man, it's gonna be a crazy time.
Some stickers and pins of the new brand. The tumbler, a Gusto tumbler.
Thank you, Gusto.
I know.
Yeah, baby. Awesome job, Gusto.
It's super cute. That is cute. Yeah. Fabulous. I love it.
There we go. Hey.
What up? It's DJJ CP in the house. Thank you for this wonderful merchandise, Gusto. You guys are awesome. We're gonna make a great partnership in the future. I'm gonna come over there, wear some socks, get to know each other, make numbers fun, baby. DJJ CPA and Gusto, one partnership.
Love it.
Yeah, Gusto, you all made this possible.
Hey, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It's really awesome. DJJ CPA is a partner here in the Denver area. We're going to link to their partner directory here at Gusto. Listen, thanks for watching this video. If you guys like it, subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Will Lopez along with Caleb Newquist, who splits more sides than a slaughterhouse. PETA members, no need to email me. I'm just saying Caleb is funny. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you are on the margins. Well, happy Tuesday. And can you believe it, Caleb? It's February already. Oh, your mic is muted again.
Man, is that twice in a row now? I'm
twice
really
in a row, but it's okay.
I'm really rusty. But you know what? It's Groundhog Day, so it's perfectly appropriate. It's like we're reliving the same show over and over, Will.
Yeah, we're pretty good at it too.
Yeah.
Can you believe we're already in the month of February in 2021? What is happening?
Well, I mean, if you want to get into the discussion of like time and space, I mean, we can go down that road, but I mean, yeah, it's just, the days are a blur. The weeks are a blur. They're just flying by.
Yeah, it really is flying by. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Will Lopez, head of Gusto's accountant community, along with Caleb Newquist, who's our editor at large. If you're watching us on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button. This is how you're going to get more of our beautiful faces every other week throughout 2021 to hopefully provide a little fun and reprieve to your daily 10-key action that's going on. And I'm sure a lot of you need it after the 1099 deadline, which was, from what I heard, pretty brutal with the new 1099, I think, NES, right, Caleb?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a pretty jam-packed show for you. We will have a special guest, Matt Skinner of Beaird Harris. He'll join us in here, and we'll have our first segment here pretty soon. Caleb, quick question before we actually drop into our segment.
Yes, sir.
Now that it's February, what are your plans for Valentine's Day coming up?
What are my plans for Valentine's Day? Well,
I mean, I don't want you to kind of give it away out in public. I'm sure your wife will see it and she'll like, oh, you spoiled it.
No, actually, she doesn't watch the show at all. So I mean, it's perfectly safe. We are, we try to do things kind of, we don't make a big fuss out of the actual day. We try to do something special like the week of or something. And, but this year, since lots of restaurants are limited, I don't know. We're still sorting it out. We might try to go out, but nothing like no big surprise or anything. It might just be a romantic night at home with an episode of Schitt's Creek. I don't know. So, which by the way, is a very touching show. And so, yeah, there's a lot of nice moments. So it could be romantic. I don't know.
I know. Well,
do you watch Schitt's Creek? Well, do you know the show?
I do know the show. I've not watched it yet.
It's a great show.
Funny enough. It's a great show.
It is.
All right. Well, I like that approach. No need to share details beyond the show, but we're going to go into our first segment, adverse opinions. But what's special about this week is we're actually going to open up our first segment with an amazing monologue from Caleb. So let's just dive right in. Adverse opinions.
I'm ready to jump into it. Should I jump into it?
Give the team just a second here.
All right.
And I think you should show up, or at least the transition should work out.
Okay, we're rolling.
But anyways, while we're waiting for your beautiful face to be on here and not mine.
Well, I see both of us now.
Yeah. The show I've gotten into recently, which real quickly is Bridgerton on Netflix.
Oh, yes.
And that's been incredible. But anyways, go for your monologue.
Okay. Now we're ready for a real adverse opinion. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I saw this Vice story about a guy in Japan who you can rent to do nothing. And so for like $100 an hour, his name is Soji Morimoto. And he said, whatever his customers need him for, that's what he'll do. And there was a quote in this article that got me thinking, got the gears turning. And he said, I used to carry around this complex that I needed to do something, but I'm not good at anything. I tried a bunch of things and I thought I'd be suitable for, but nothing stuck. So I thought, I'm not suited to do anything. maybe I'm more suited to do nothing. And to be fair, this guy wasn't doing nothing for his customers. He was doing all kinds of things, everything from going to Disneyland to serving people divorce papers. So like companionship, process serving, these are things that people need done and they're willing to pay for it. And so because they're willing to pay for it, that means it's valuable and it's in demand. And so a person who does virtually anything, but also nothing, if that's what you need, if you just need someone to be there and not do anything, then he can do that too. And so what it got me thinking about was that for a while now, there's been this trend in the accounting world for firms to have niches, specialties or expertise. The idea being that if you're only one of a few people who does something, that gives you rare skills and knowledge, and those rare skills and knowledge are hopefully in high demand, and then people will pay you handsomely to do those things. And I guess what this article reminded me of is that there's lots of value in accountants who don't have a specialty. So it's the old generalist versus specialist debate. And, doctors are used to illustrate the concept. And the common one that you hear a lot is, well, if you need brain surgery, you don't want to go to a general practitioner. And I mean, that's good advice, right? So if you need complex work done, you'll want to go to someone who specializes in that complex work. But I guess the question then is, but how often do you need brain surgery? And I know. There's rare instances where people need lots of brain surgery, and brain surgeons are, I have to assume, like busy people. They aren't sitting around for days on end and like, oh, now I have a brain surgery. No, they probably do surgery every day. But most people won't ever have brain surgery, right? And I think the same kind of thinking can be applied to many, many businesses. Many of them just need this capable advisor to check them out on routine matters, answer their questions, just give them solid general advice. Or in other words, this advisor doesn't specialize in anything, they specialize in nothing. And now accounting's a field, obviously, it's a domain of knowledge, and you can do lots of things within that domain, and you have a lot of knowledge about it. But beyond that, many accountants don't have an expertise. A term you hear a lot is expert generalists. And that generalist expertise is immensely valuable. And for most small businesses, the types of businesses that many of you advise, that's exactly what they need. So go out there and be the best expert nothingist you can be. Your clients will be grateful. So that's my adverse opinion. And Will Lopez, I'd like to get your take on this now.
Well, that was pretty awesome. And, this has been a really interesting topic, and I think it's perfect for the adverse opinion segment here. But I think when I owned my practice, I've always touted myself as an expert at nothing, but an expert at being a generalist, a strong generalist.
Right.
Because I felt like for the most part, that's what the majority of business owners need. They don't need a specialist. And in my opinion, I feel like what has happened is a lot of accounting firms, small, mid, and large, look up to big brother and sister, the big four. And they look at the hierarchy that's happening inside the big four, very complicated, right? Crazy departments, tax department, audit, special consulting. And they try to emulate a firm that really speaks to it. And so I think what's really incredible is that for some reason, I feel like the industry has fallen prey to that hierarchy and are not really listening to kind of like the broad demands of the client base, and are saying, oh, you need that work? Well, go to that department. I remember at my old practice all the time, I used to be on the field doing audit work, and the CFO would come up to me and he would say, what's the status of my tax return? And I would say, I have no idea. I'm your auditor. Right. And it was like this,
right.
Like he was just looking for general support, general feedback. What's the general status of my relationship with your firm? And I didn't have access to any of it. And it resorted into me looking really weird saying, I'm your auditor. And he's like, well, you work at the same firm, don't you? And that was his literal response, was like, you work at that same firm. I'm like, well, yeah, I do, but I'm in a different department. And I think to our own chagrin and dismay as a profession, especially small to mid-sized firms, we're trying to emulate too much of the hierarchy, and we're not really listening to what being really good at nothing can really do.
So did you ever feel pressure? Did you ever feel like, oh, you had to develop a niche, like whether it was an industry or something like that? I mean, was there ever kind of in the back of your mind, it's like, oh, well, I seem to be attracting lots of architects, so maybe I'll just have a niche in architects. I'll only serve architects. Did that ever occur? Did that ever happen to you is what I'm asking.
Yeah. So we had our niches. I mean, we verticalized, right? Which is the more modern term. We selected a vertical or an industry we wanted to serve, but the way we served it wasn't like a specialist route. We didn't go at that vertical or that industry. Let's say professional service. Professional service was my biggest.
Yep.
I didn't go at the business owner and say, look, here's what we're going to do. You're going to have an engagement letter for your bookkeeping. Because we have a bookkeeping department, an engagement letter for your audit, an engagement letter for your taxes. We consolidated the experience, even though we were going after a niche.
Interesting.
Which really brings up to, and you can pull up the USA Today article in your newsletter last week, which was incredible. Encourage everyone to read it. There was an article that you referenced that said nearly 30% of working professionals would quit if they had to return to office after the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so what was really interesting about this generalist versus specialist approach, in my opinion, why were you thinking about just the working force or the professional force? Do you think that becoming a generalist is somehow tied to working from home?
No, I don't think so. I think experts probably, I think anybody can work from home. Well, I take that back. Not everybody can work from home, but like, I think from a professional services standpoint, I think it's a pretty level playing field about, what you can do from where. The idea that what I found interesting about that USA Today article was the fact that people have become so accustomed to something that they were either pre-pandemic, they were either afraid of, or in the initial days of the pandemic, that they thought it was going to be, difficult or impossible to work. And so now you have all these people who have just they were afraid of this change, and this change kind of transpired. And now they're comfortable with this new situation, and so they're afraid to change back. And so I thought, or they've drawn a line in the sand. It's like, I'm not changing back. I really like this, so I'm not changing back. Yes, I may have been afraid of it before, but I'm no longer afraid of it, and I'm afraid of going back, so I'm not going to go back anymore. And so how that ties into generalist versus specialist, I'd have to go back and think about it, but I don't remember like an explicit tie between the two.
Well, I was going to say, I think where the profession falls prey is just the risk adverse behavior. And I think a lot of the profession, from like a specialist and generalist approach, a lot of the profession generally takes the specialist approach.
Yeah.
And they like to be very specific about their offerings, and only until recently are we seeing a little bit of a broadening of the skill set, and a huge push by the pandemic to broaden your skill set as wide as possible, right, in order to respond. And so, for sure, the generalist mentality is almost like an entrepreneurial mentality with your own skill set, always, waiting the pull in either direction to see what clients need, so you can kind of like speak into it. You're never great at everything, but you're good at a lot of it, which really helps out a lot of clients. So, the work from home, even like, the fear of going back to offices or saying, hey, I can flex now from home. My company surely can handle this now. Kind of mirrors a little bit of like the profession's approach with generalists and specialists a little bit is, hey, during 2020, we took a generalist approach to survive, right? We can do this and not just fall back into the normal rigor. So,
right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah. I like it. Well, great. Before we get to probably the Yoda of doing nothing, Matt Skinner, Before we invite him on to have a conversation with us, if you're new to Gusto, would love to let you know a little bit about Gusto. So if you want to expand your advisory services and offer clients more value, Gusto is the people platform of choice for modern accountants powered by People Advisory. We make it easy for accountants and bookkeepers to onboard, pay, insure, and advise their hardworking clients and teams when it matters most. And better yet, Gusto does offer a People Advisory certification program that you can learn everything you need to know that's first of its kind around payroll. As a people advisor, you'll learn to combine your financial expertise with people-focused guidance to better serve clients, and you'll access all the amazing perks that our partner program has. So partner with Gusto today, introduce your firm and your clients to better people operations and more at gusto.com/get certified. That's gusto.com/get certified. Well, great. We have the incredible, the one and only Matt Skinner. A little bit about Matt, just so I introduce him, take the edge off here. Matt Skinner, CPA, thank you for being us. He's our guest for today. We're lucky to have him on. Fun fact about Matt, his favorite quote is from Maurice Sendak. Surely there must be more to life than having everything. He currently practices public accounting at Beaird Harris. He joined Beaird Harris as part of their accounting services team, now leads their advisory services offerings as an advisory manager. Matt, welcome to On the Margins.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I'll toss in the first thing into the ring here. I know you received Caleb's newsletter. What are your initial thoughts about the generalist versus specialist argument? Do you see yourself as a specialist at Beaird Harris? How do you look at your own professionalism and how you try to approach your clients?
Sure. I mean, I think we've had historically, like you said, there's a certain point where you end up with a specific mix of clients. And then arbitrarily, basically over time, you say, well, we're really a firm that helps, to use the same example, architects. Not that you necessarily went out and sought architects, not that you really specialize in architects, not that you really like architecture, but somehow friend of a friend of an architect of an architect of an architect, and all of a sudden you have 1,000 architects. So in that regards, I think you're occasionally buttonholed into this one specific area where you feel like you're a specialist when are you? I mean, are you a specialist of obligation, right? Because I think there's a certain point to where being a specialist matters because there are certain tasks any of us, all of us, despise and don't want to do. There are certain forms you don't want to prepare. There are certain industries that you're not qualified to work in, or at least not comfortable to work in. But there's another point to where a good skill set is applicable to a lot of things. There are specialists out there that are in the, that you say, I have a real estate bill for Columbus, Ohio, and there's somebody at Big Four that specializes in real property for Columbus, Ohio, and I'm glad to send things their way. But in a more specific way, I think that being that generalist of 50 to 60% of things is an open skill set that's applicable to a lot, right? How much of advising people, whether it's on numbers or human beings, there's certain patterns that you're recognizing that you can apply over time to different places.
So Matt, do you feel as though a generalist, when it comes to the question of trust, we all are familiar with the kind of cliche of trusted advisor, is there implied trust with a generalist? I can go to this person about anything. Whereas a specialist is well, I can't go to them for just anything. I have to have something very specific to go to that person. So do you think the question of trust for a generalist, do you think generalists have an advantage in that way?
I think it may depend on the client mix, but there is a certain point to where when you have an individual, right, it's about long-term building that relationship, right? That someone's going to call you to say, geez, I got to buy a car, or, oh no, my house just burned down, or what if I want to buy this? Generally from clients, it's I want to buy this, how can I do it? And so based on that, right, you're not going to call your brain surgeon about every specific medical ailment that comes up. So to be a trusted advisor, to use our ongoing vernacular, is that you're available for questions about their money and about their business and about the numbers, right? It's really about parsing that data into something that you can actually use to make a choice or a decision. So I would agree. You're not going to call the guy that is an absolute specialist in Columbus, Ohio real estate for anything other than that. I would much rather you call me for any question related to anything outside of Columbus, Ohio real estate.
Well, I mean that, and I'd love for you to tell us, I mean, being the advisory manager at Beaird Harris, maybe share a little bit with us about Beaird Harris and kind of like your strategy with that team. But I kind of think back to the early days of the cloud where the profession was in an identity crisis. I still feel like it is. And what you would hear a lot from clients is, you know, I don't go to my accountant to talk about taxes because they only do my bookkeeping. And so there's this implication where the SMB or the small business owner, the owner of the business, already is seeing their advisor, who may be an advisor through and through, as someone who specializes in a particular outcome or an output. And so how are you approaching that at Beaird Harris? What's the strategy there as you lead the advisory initiative over there?
Yeah, we've always sort of worked on a holistic approach. There's our logo. I just saw that, nice and big. But on that basis, right, and I know this may go against what I just said earlier, we have a great deal of medical clients, but it's because sometimes something happens that you graduate med school, you have a lot of debt, you generally have a lot of cash coming in, and then you say, what do I do with it? And it's not necessarily useful for us to say, I'll prepare your tax return once a year, right? Or the same thing that says, I'll keep ongoing books for you. We have a wealth management arm. We have a public accountancy arm. So the purpose is that holistic approach of saying, okay, well, let's figure out what's tax advantageous over the year, right? Let's keep the books up and current so we know what's happening. Based on that, we can make suggestions about what to do with this wealth, what to do with it long-term, what to do short-term. I mean, while I said we have a great deal of medical clients, there are still some things that are wildly inconsistent between being a dermatologist or being a dentist or being an emergency room physician. And then there are also certain cosmic truths that apply to all of those things, right? It's really about goal setting and saying, where does this person, this client, where do you and your business want to be in 2 years or 10 years or 20 years? You know, there are certain clients that have told me their goal is to work X number of years and retire early. Perfect. There are clients that say, I want to build this giant business and give it to my grandbabies. Perfect. That's easy. I have a client that said, don't make fun of me, but my goal is to get approved for one of those Amex Black cards. And I said, perfect. Right. I mean, I'm not a judge of goals, right? The whole point is to take that position that way we know, you know, here's what they want to do. Here's what the steps can be. And having everything in that in-house process helps us from having to say, well, let me call your wealth manager and see if he's on board with your tax preparer and if maybe they feel the same way that we do when we look at the books.
So, Matt, I'm just curious. So, for the young people in your firm, like people are up and coming and they look at you and so handsome and so smart and
That's
like
what they say too. They say,
yeah.
That smart,
And
handsome
like,
old man.
Verbatim, quote unquote.
That's right. And like, he's in charge. He knows what's going on. I'm like, so when they come to you and they say, I want to be Matt, I want to be the next Matt Skinner. Like what do you talk to them about? Like, what advice do you give that person? And especially if we come back to the generalist specialist question, like in what context do you advise them on that?
Yeah. Step one, get in line. That's the first thing they've all got to do. No question. No. So to me, like I said, I'm not a big believer in the sort of, do what you love and you'll never work a day. Because if that was true, they wouldn't call it work. I mean, there's still going to be things you don't like to do.
Right.
Having said that, if you find something that you despise, right, or you're not good at and you're not comfortable with, that's not where your focus necessarily has to go, right? You don't have to be an A student in every subject, because eventually you're going to hit a point where, I used to work at a pizza joint. I would probably, if I went back to right now, I bet I would be the best dishwasher that they have on staff. And I also categorically do not want to be a dishwasher, no matter how good I may or may not be at it. So to me, that sort of specialization within the realm is when you find something that you like, that you're good at, that you have the personality for, especially in accounting, there are those of us who are gregarious and those of us that are maybe not so gregarious, right? It's not a pro or a con. It's a matter of saying, this is what I like, this is where I'm good at, this is where I'm comfortable, because eventually you can't market, you can't bill, you can't continue to build in something that you don't like or you're not happy with. So when we talk to anybody who's in our mentor program, or they're new, or they're relatively new to public accounting and they just worked 55 hours and they're not sure if they're ever going to be able to work again, it's a matter of saying you get time, exposure, seeing what it is where you like, and then make sure you advocate for yourself and say, listen, I really enjoy doing advisory stuff. I like to talk to clients. I like to touch books and know what's happening and recognize patterns. Or you say, I'm terrified of anything that's not email. What I really like is parsing through data and forming reports and coming to conclusions. One's no better than the other, but I wish that I had known early on that you didn't have to be great at everything. Because the reason I left public my first round was that, I felt like I was just doing work. I was making journal entries every year, and I was adjusting retirement obligations and booking depreciation, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing what had been done the year before. And my manager said, you'll know. Eventually, you'll know what you're doing. Right now, you just need to do the mechanical part, which I kind of felt like put me at a disadvantage. I feel like now when I talk to people that are early in their careers, which makes me sound like an old guy, and I wish that I wasn't the case, but here we are. It's an understanding to make sure that you don't have to know all the things. You have to know what you like. You have to know where you're comfortable, because that's where you're going to be able to excel long term.
So in essence, you're saying you should specialize in being a generalist.
Absolutely. I think that you should get the 10 subjects and choose 5 or 6 of them, right? I don't do income taxes anymore. And when people ask me, what's this code on my K1, I refer it off to someone who knows better than I do. But on the same hand, I like to think that that's a minority of the questions that I receive that I have to send off to somebody else.
Yeah, and I think that sentiment is right. I think I felt the very same way you did in my old practice prior to starting my own firm. Was we called it Sally. We sallied everything, same as last year. And you weren't doing anything creative, and you definitely weren't using the consultative side of your expertise, or the side of that brain where you recognize patterns and the bridge between what you're recognizing and the potential solution was your own advice and recommendation and tweaking and testing. And that's what makes, advisory work and generalist work so appealing in my mind. It gets a lot of your creativity out there, even though I know the profession loves to say risk adverse and probably sally everything for the next, for eternity. But it really provides that level of kind of boots on the ground, understanding things as they're happening, and gives that almost like, weed in the wind bend that clients are really seeking from their professional.
Yeah, there's a certain point where it's going to be different every day, right? If it's really worth doing, and I have seen the same where you go, well, why did we make this journal entry? Why did we do this? It was like that when I got here, right? Like I just took the entry and I rounded it a little bit and I changed the dates, and now it's a good entry. I know that, accounting school doesn't do a great job of preparing anyone for being an accountant in the year 2021, I would dare say, but it's that continued exposure to weird things and different things. And the fact that not only is it completely different than last year, I've told people before, when you're preparing this or doing this, like, just do what you need to do first, and then go back and look at the other entries, right? Like maybe they were made for a reason, maybe they weren't, maybe there's a better way to do it, right? The kind of, I learned it from the person before me, who learned it from the person before me. Then all of a sudden we're kind of doing the things that the managing partner might have done in 1974 when they were an intern, and we're doing it on paper with the wax pencil or whatever, but we're just doing it in QuickBooks instead.
Those wax pencils. I remember
I
those.
know.
Oh my
If
gosh.
we just had the ledgers and we could roll out and get sleeve garters and all the things, we'd be set. But
Yeah. I think wax pencil sales have dropped a little bit.
I think
those green lampshades, I think, aren't doing quite the business they used to.
Oh, I need one of those just for fun. Caleb, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because, you know, from my point of view, and just thinking about your newsletter, what we're not saying here is that you shouldn't be doing those fundamental compliance things that are done day in and day out, where you are, you know, rolling journal entries and doing fixed asset roll forwards or whatever the case may be. What we're saying is you do that underlying work, but then you take the extra steps to connect the dots in that underlying work so you can become a better generalist using your specialized expertise at doing compliance work or underlying work, right?
Yeah. And I think, you know, I think it's becoming easier. I mean, I think what people take for granted is technology is doing lots of this work now, right? And that's terrific. But I think there's something fundamental about understanding those compliant tasks that can be automated. And so, yeah, we shouldn't, no one should take those kinds of things for granted, because they really do provide the foundation for you to provide, just high level advisory work, the stuff that is more nuanced and more, I guess it's considered high value. So yeah, I think it's something that is increasingly taken for granted. And it's something that we have to kind of, that's the stuff that the compliance stuff is what grounds us, right? Like this is how accounting first emerged as a profession of experts. And so now that it's evolving, we can't forget that, you know, where we came from. So it really does underscore our value as advisors.
Yeah, I think that's right. Matt, would love for people to kind of follow you and see what you're up to. How can people follow you? Are you on Twitter? Are you on LinkedIn? Can they email you about advisory advice or advice on advisory at their own practices? How can we get a hold of the incredible Matt Skinner?
Yeah, absolutely. I am basically nowhere on the internet with the exception of LinkedIn. Just kind of a hermit in that way. But I have a work email that is Matt S, M-A-T-T-S, and that's at bh-co.com. That is our website. All of Beaird Harris is there. Our website allows access to anyone who needs it. And we are on Twitter. We are at Beaird Harris. That's with an I in the word beard, not the face kind, the name kind.
Yeah, I was going to say, does everyone have a beard at Beaird Harris, or
it's part of the dress code? It's just gradually kind of fading in and out. We got rid of ties. We brought in the beards.
Nice. Well, great. Love your time. Thank you so much for your time. Fun fact too is Matt is on our Gusto People Advisory Council and Partner Advisory Council. And so it's for those of you who out there who are leaning on people like Matt to drive innovation through Gusto and to Gusto, Matt's your guy. Matt, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks,
Absolutely.
Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Well, there you go, Caleb.
That was fun.
That was fun. Not sure if we've solved the mystery yet of generalist versus specialist, or, you know, being specializing and being a generalist, but I think we're closer. We're closer to solving the mystery.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it's a mystery. It's just something that everybody has to decide for themselves what they want to do, right?
Yeah.
But I think the second guessing of the generalist approach, like I used to be like a big expertise person. And I mean, that's kind of how my career has progressed. Like I started as a CPA, then I started going concern, and then I was a blogger and a journalist. And so I'm writing about accounting all the time. I did content consulting specifically for accounting firms, but also, you know, tech firms like Gusto who serve accountants. And so I'm in that expert realm, I suppose. But what I've come around to is just how valuable generalists can be, and especially the expert generalists like yourself, Will Lopez. So yeah, I mean, it's a question for everyone in the profession to kind of decide for themselves and decide what direction they're going to take.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely great at doing nothing. But thanks everyone for watching us. And like I said, if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, just follow us. Caleb, take us away.
Yeah, this edition of On the Margins Live was produced and written by Will Lopez and myself. Our co-producers are Mohini Kundu and Andrea Garcia Vargas. Video and sound production by Waylon Janwick and Rylan Harris. Graphic design by Paul Choi. Special thanks to all of you for watching On the Margins Live. We will see you next time.